All right, and depending on where you look, the fourth fight of the night or the second fight of the night, depending on whether or not you're looking at UFC, Tapology, or others, we've got Jonathan Pearce taking on Joanderson Brito in what is one of my favorite fights of the night. This stylistically should be a fantastic matchup and should not be on the prelims of this card in particular. This fight deserves to be on the main card of what is a 6-fight main card that is pretty bleh by UFC standards. And I'm excited for it, and we're going to hype it up. But by UFC standards, this should be on there. And the reason is, I mean, Jonathan Pearce is as good a top control wrestler as there is in the UFC. And at 14-4 and now 5-1 in the UFC, the stats really back that up. And Joanderson Brito in his own right is a powerful wrestler and a powerful striker. Now 15-3-1 in his UFC career. In his MMA career, 3-1 in the UFC. And what we should see in this fight is takedowns from both sides. Jonathan Pearce now is 4th all-time in significant strike accuracy and 2nd in takedown accuracy within the featherweight division and lands over 5.74 takedowns per 15 minutes. That significant strike accuracy comes from the fact that he is typically just landing hellacious ground and pound from the top. And that's where he's going to want to take this fight. His striking is continuing to improve. His boxing combinations are pretty rudimentary, but he does like to use the front kick up the middle to try and keep it at range. He actually did a decent bit of damage to Darren Elkins in his fight with him recently over that. And in that fight, though it went to decision, it probably should have stopped. If you go back and watch that fight and you like blood, that was about as bloody a face as you can imagine. And for those of you who are familiar with Darren Elkins, which if you watched MMA for a while, you are, it was a vintage Darren Elkins performance where he's just going to give 120% the entire fight. And he might get ragdolled, but damn it, he's going to keep going. So a fun fight to watch, but back on track. Jonathan Pearce is just going to want to do that for every fight. And he's been a huge, huge favorite in the majority of his fights too, over -400. This, spoiler, is not the same. This is about a pick'em. Jonathan Pearce is up to -130 with Brito being +110. And for good reason. Spoiler, I've got Brito in this fight. I think that the power of Brito within the takedowns, his single and double legs, is going to be huge to be able to get Pearce down there. And the power and on the feet is going to be a difference maker. One of Jonathan Pearce's big holes in his game is that he goes forward and back in a straight line. He doesn't move that head off center much at all. And while he can try to pick that up, that's something that I think is just going to stick in his game for a while, no matter what changes he makes. And with the power that Brito has and the amount that Pearce has been hit throughout his career, I think that he's going to be able to land a couple of those just powerful shots that'll wobble Pearce or force Pearce to go into a takedown that he doesn't want to take. And we've seen in Brito's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that, it is elite. For as much power as he has on the feet with 6 knockouts, he's got 7 submissions to his name. And so I think that this should be a fantastic fight. And if I've got anyone to get a finish in this fight, it's Brito. And that's why my official pick, and getting a little bit ahead of myself before I hand it over to you, Andy, to get your thoughts. But my pick is Brito inside the distance, but it pushes if it goes to the cards. So it's a no bet if the fight goes to the cards. And so if either fighter gets a finish, I've got Brito, and it's -115. So instead of getting him at plus money, I've got him to get the finish. I think he's got avenues on the feet and on the ground to be able to do it. And I think that we're in for one hell of a fight here. Andy, what do you got on this fight?
Yes, I don't have a bet on this fight. I do tend to lean your way, though, where I really like how explosive Brito is. I know that, like you said, he does struggle against the technical fighters, but just the stylistically, like how fun of a guy he is, that gives me a lot of excitement here, where just like to be bland, I really don't like the whole Jonathan Pearce thing. It doesn't get me as excited as it does with Brito. And to be honest with you, like that's where I draw the line. I know it's not as in depth as the first analysis that I gave, but it's just the truth. Some of these like fights that I've seen of Jonathan Pearce, it's just whatever, where I feel like when you put him up against somebody who is as explosive as Brito, as fun of a fighter as Brito, someone who is going to be elite in the clinch like Brito, I really tend to lean with Brito, as well as just a fight fan. I want Brito to win. So again, I don't feel like I have as good of a knowledge base or am as in touch with this one as you are. So I'm going to stay away from the betting side, but as far as making a pick on the fight, I'm going to go Brito just like you.
Yeah, and if you want to get a little cute, I've seen it on different websites. But I think that if you're not really sure which way to go in this fight, Brito early, like round one, round two, could be an interesting play. And then if you want to go later, you can go Pearce maybe round three or by decision, and get plus money on both sides. But either way, we're both going with Brito in this fight. I've got Brito inside the distance with a caveat that it's a push if it goes to the cards. That brings the odds down to minus 115, and I'm going to take that for a full unit. So we will see you on the next fight. We're covering Nicholas Mata versus Trey Ogden. We'll see you there.